Hello, everyone! Nature loves showing off its power through various natural disasters, and floods are one of its favorite ways to remind people just how mighty it is. Check out this compilation to see some of the most sudden and massive displays of nature's force. Let's get it on! People often underestimate the power of cyclones until they experience it firsthand. That's exactly what happened this time. The Mediterranean cyclone brought massive downpours to Genoa, with rainfall reaching 4 times the monthly average in just 24 hours. Streams and rivers overflowed, flooding streets and mercilessly sweeping away everything in their path. Just imagine, a couple of days ago it was just a regular town. And then out of the blue, it got flooded with tons of water. Crazy, right? Intense rain and melting snow can lead to severe floods, as seen in a Canadian city recently. Additional streams of water came down onto the city through drainage systems meant to channel away surplus water from the mountains. Look at how easily the powerful current is washing away the roads and house foundations by the river. It's crazy how all that hard work put into building them is gone in no time. Apocalyptic movie. But unfortunately, it's not fiction. It's the aftermath of a storm that caused a massive fire in the Italian city of Savona. The unbelievably strong winds knocked down trees mercilessly. Heavy rainfall flooded the city and ultimately led to a short circuit in a car park. In some cars, the batteries exploded, and within moments, fire engulfed the area. As a result of the fire, around 1,500 cars were destroyed, and the whole scene looks incredibly eerie.
Centinaia e centinaia di macchine bruciate.
Can you believe how crazy the weather got in sunny Italy? When a fierce storm hit their hometown of Catania, Sicilians couldn't even recognize it anymore. For several days, heavy rains poured all over the region, accompanied by strong winds. Imagine what it was like for those who had to go to work in such conditions. They had to wade through nearly 1.5 feet of rainfall. Nature's sudden moon swings forced authorities to declare the highest level of danger to protect the city's residents and prevent casualties. When these people purchased their home, they wanted to be nearer to the sea. They weren't concerned about the unusual water level, and when the tide receded, the ocean didn't seem as close. Little did they know that someday, there would be an earthquake in the Aegean Sea, leading to unforeseen consequences. Underground tremors triggered a tsunami that slammed into the coastal buildings, including this lovely house. Look at the force of that wave. It even busted the door wide open and flooded every room. Imagine the shock on the homeowner's face when she returned and saw this whole mess. On that day, workers from Puerto Rico could only watch helplessly as floodwaters tore the bridge from its foundation and carried it downstream. This happened due to heavy rainfall that caused severe flooding. This was all brought down by the hurricane with the sweet and innocent name, Fiona. But as you can see, the impact of such an event was undeniably severe. Now, let's see how it looked from the opposite bank. They put up this bridge just after the last big storm. It's weird that even with that in mind, they couldn't figure out a way to make it tough enough for the next one. It's crazy to think how easily the water washed away such a big, solid metal structure. Here's what another hurricane with a beautiful name has done. Nora swept through Mexico, dumping an enormous amount of rainfall several times higher than normal and causing a significant rise in water levels in the rivers. Unfortunately, one of the bridges couldn't withstand the force of the current and collapsed right in front of people's eyes. Everyone was warned about the danger, and traffic was blocked, but people wanted to see for themselves what the storm was capable of. Judging by their reaction, they definitely didn't expect the bridge to be completely destroyed. Edenville Dam is a 1.2-mile-long embankment standing nearly 55 feet tall. But it still couldn't withstand the force of nature when the area was hit by a record amount of rainfall. The dam burst, sending powerful streams of water downstream towards the nearest town. Besides the obvious damage, the surrounding environment took a hit too. The lake formed by the dam was almost completely emptied. It's hard to believe that heavy rain can set off a chain of events with so many destructive consequences. This unsettling footage is the aftermath of a dam breach in Michigan. After 3 days of continuous rain, it gave way, unleashing huge volumes of water. The current was rapid, swiftly reaching the closest town. Authorities had to evacuate several thousand people as numerous homes ended up underwater. Besides that, the water flow also reached the second dam further downstream. The streets of nearby towns were flooded several feet deep, leaving residents with no choice but to abandon their homes and seek higher ground as the water slowly rose around them. A surveillance camera in a Swiss village caught the moment when a landslide hit a carpentry workshop. Within minutes, the muddy flow flooded the workshop area and everything around it. Despite appearing slow and relatively harmless, landslides can effortlessly demolish structures. Houses in the village also took a hit, but fortunately, people were unharmed as they managed to evacuate in time. I bet you're wondering where all these branches and logs came from. According to one researcher, what happened in Switzerland can be explained this way. When the soil is dry, it can't soak up water as it normally would. So, when a hurricane hit the town after a long drought, the rivers filled up way faster, and the water level shot up in no time. The swift current swept up all the dried up sticks and tree bits, not just from the riverbed, but also from the shores. Gotta say, it looks epic. Have you ever seen waves this massive? Well, people in San Sebastian see them regularly, every fall. They say tourists even come here just to watch this epic sight, and it really does look really impressive. Some dare to stroll along the waterfront and feel the rush of a massive wave approaching. I bet it looks 1,000 times cooler in real life. The most important thing is to remember safety when you're looking for that adrenaline rush and getting drenched by a large wave. In 2022, Yellowstone National Park in the USA experienced flooding like it hadn't seen in a century. There was a huge amount of rainfall in the area, and sadly it happened right when the snow was melting. This caused water levels in the rivers to rise, quickly flooding the park. Staff had to evacuate thousands of visitors who barely had the chance to enjoy their time outdoors. The scariest part was how the storm washed away roads and even reached some houses. The rushing water eroded the shores, and homes just toppled into the water like toys.
Oh my God.
Luckily, park staff were able to warn people, and no one got hurt. It's hard to find someone who hasn't heard about what went down in Dubai in mid-April 2024. The financial hub of the Middle East got slammed with a flood. Unusual heavy rains, which don't happen too often in that region, turned the streets into waterways. The whole world was left scratching their heads. Locals are used to droughts. Tourists expected scorching heat. But nature decided to throw a curveball for everyone at once. Travelers were particularly shocked by the sudden weather change. Airports got flooded, and numerous flights had to be rescheduled or canceled. No matter what plans people make, nature's the one calling the shots. Typically, Agron waterfall isn't as grand, but recent heavy rains have made it larger. The intense downpours and rise led to various unpleasant outcomes, with the overflow of the waterfall being one of the main ones. Agron's waters overflowed, submerging the downtown area and the waterfront. There was so much water that it covered the ground floors of buildings. It's a situation where you can't help but feel for the locals. Surely they never anticipated that their pride and joy, the waterfall, would cause them such inconvenience.
Oh. Nice.
All these folks aren't really in a hurry to escape from the strong water current. Kinda weird, isn't it? You know, as crazy as it sounds, for them it's just another day. This valley in Saudi Arabia gets its lushness from the excess water from a local dam. Because of the year-round flow, the valley is unbelievably green compared to the surrounding landscape. It's like stepping into a real-life fairy tale oasis. It's no surprise that locals enjoy coming to marvel at such beauty and even join in the excitement of the dam releasing water. When nature works its magic, it's impossible to resist. This slow mud flow doesn't seem all that threatening, right? I bet there are rivers where the natural flow is much faster, but that's how nature deceives us. The folks in Kabardina-Balkaria probably never thought this lazy stream could cause any harm, and surely they weren't too bothered when authorities ordered preemptive evacuation. And then they saw this. Yeah, that footbridge just crumbled like it was built from Lego blocks, not metal. The mud flow just carried all the debris along. After that, people definitely started paying more attention to weather warnings. Some people actually managed to capture shots of the mud flow up close. In those shots, you can really see that a mud flow isn't just water. Its main thing, and what makes it dangerous, is that it carries chunks of rocks and debris. Maybe that's why, even with its relatively slow speed, a mud flow can wreck big structures and seriously damage buildings. For people living in flat areas, these shots are incredible. Lots of tourists were blown away by what they saw. And for people living in mountainous areas, it's just a regular sight, though still pretty scary. This is what happened to Midland, Michigan, after a heavy flood. It all started with heavy rains pounding the southern part of the peninsula, hitting this country the hardest. But it wasn't just the rain that caused the trouble, it was what came after. Water levels surged in all the lakes, rivers, and reservoirs. Soon one dam broke, then another gave way to the strong flood. Thousands of people had to flee their homes, leaving everything behind just to stay safe. Before long, the place looked like a flooded ghost town. Climate change can be puzzling at times. Just last year, there was a massive wildfire in the canyon not far from this city, and the next summer, heavy rains hit the same area. In less than 20 minutes, 5 inches of rain came down, which is several times higher than the monthly average. The city streets turned into literal rivers, with currents strong enough to carry away some cars. Residents could only stand by in shock, unable to do much. This was the last thing tourists expected to see when visiting a paradise like Bali. Instead of strolling along sandy beaches and swimming in the emerald waters, people were forced to watch as a small tsunami swept over the shoreline. Even though Klungkung is a popular spot for surfers, hardly anyone would dare to test their skills on waves like those.
Whoa. Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
Check out the aftermath of heavy rains in the city of Kalba. They were pouring for 2 straight days. And according to meteorologists, these were the heaviest downpours in the last 27 years. Nearly 4,000 people left their homes and had to find shelter. During another search for victims, rescuers shot this video to document the damage caused by the rains. It probably took more than a month to deal with the consequences of the natural disaster. Here's an interesting fact. Being situated in a river delta makes an area super vulnerable to storms. Right now, you can see a perfect example on the screen. The storm is going wild, with wind gusts reaching up to 130 feet per second. Even the shoreline protection couldn't handle the massive waves crashing in, flooding everything in their path. Look at how far the water's reaching. Besides the waterfront, it's flooding residential homes and hotels close to the sea. Bet a lot of folks regretted booking rooms so close to the water on that day. During the flooding in the Chiang Mai province, the water levels in rivers rose so high that it not only reached the bridges, but also swept away some of the structures. Take a look at how quickly the water carried off one of the structures. You can sense the operator's emotions. It's like being caught between marveling at how powerful nature can be and feeling a shiver down your spine at the sheer scale of its force. Seeing something like that, you realize right away that on Earth, nature calls the shots, not humans. Owning a house by the river with a beautiful view sounds like a dream, until something like this happens. The reason behind this chaos is Cyclone Yaku, which unleashed a torrential downpour over Peru. Nobody was ready for it, as something like this had never happened before. People were living peacefully on the outskirts and close to rivers, feeling safe even during heavy rains. However, this cyclone demonstrated nature's force. Overflowing rivers eroded banks and house foundations. Authorities managed to warn people in time, preventing any casualties. Still, people were shaken by how quickly the elements destroyed their homes. The overflowing river in Plantanitos, Guatemala, forced numerous families to abandon their homes. After heavy rains, the city experienced flooding unlike anything before. Residents were warned of the danger and urged to evacuate as far away from the disaster area as possible. Some of them, after reaching safety, managed to capture footage of the rushing water coursing through the streets, sweeping away everything in its path. Those with homes near the coast had it the hardest. The water washed away the sand, making heavy buildings just crumble and fall right into the water. It was a really scary scene. You'd be surprised, but this happened due to avalanches. At the upper reaches of the river, a blockage formed, leading to a sudden rush of water downstream, spilling over the river's banks and flooding the city streets. Picture the disbelief on people's faces as they went about their business. Thankfully, there were no casualties, but there were still challenges. Traffic in the city was significantly restricted, especially for those who decided to take a walk. After Hurricane Ida hit, Philadelphia looked like a scene out of a disaster movie. The storm caused flooding, one of the worst in the state's history. The main highway downtown was completely submerged, and some buildings were nearly underwater up to the second floor. The locals were completely unprepared for something like this. The ones living on the first floors were hit the hardest. Even though no one got hurt, it's scary to think about the extent of the damage suffered by both the authorities and the residents of the city.
The water almost hit the second floor apartments, and I wasn't smart enough to park over there.
Ainov Dat is a stunning national park with a large canyon. In the past, it served as a vital water source in the area because there's a spring at the bottom of the canyon. Nowadays, it's mainly visited by tourists. One lucky group got to witness a small flood with their own eyes. Just a while ago, they were walking along the dried steps of the canyon, and soon enough they watched those steps get flooded with rainwater. It's a super rare sight, and the guys were truly fortunate to witness it. People living in a tiny village in Amman got a special treat when they witnessed a dried-up riverbed being replenished by rainwater. Strong rainfall isn't too common in this desert country, so the villagers were surprised to see such a powerful flow of water, which even spilled onto the road. No doubt the folks in this little village would be talking about this amazing event for quite some time.
Make sure the car doors are unlocked.
A few folks in Alaska deliberately parked by the dried-up river channel to witness the upcoming flood. They managed to get some amazing shots of the water flowing in. It's lucky there weren't any cars on the road at that time. The big valley got filled with water, and the current washed away the road. A huge hole formed where asphalt used to be not long ago. People who heard about it on the news came to see it for themselves. They were stunned, and at the same time impressed by what nature had done. Because only nature can change so quickly. In recent years, India has experienced a notable surge in spontaneous disasters. They're triggered by a mix of factors like changing weather patterns and blocked drainage systems. People find themselves in cities that are instantly flooded after heavy rainfall. A natural disaster literally brings life in the area to a standstill during the flooding. Just look at how this neighborhood is struggling. Some people can't even step out of their homes in such conditions. One can only hope that someday we can become kinder to nature, and in turn, it will be a little more merciful to us. It's not just a picturesque natural fountain. It's the aftermath of a water leak from a reservoir dam in Uzbekistan. The flooding caused significant damage to the area. Roads, buildings, and utilities were all affected, along with agricultural facilities. 10 villages were submerged, and authorities had to evacuate over 30,000 people. These images only capture a fraction of what people had to deal with. The total losses from the incident amounted to nearly $1 million. It's remarkable how something as ordinary as water flow can cause such immense damage.